One on each computer screen. I have my last. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Schumacher. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Palma de Dunes Property Owners Association. I'd like to welcome everybody, our property owners. Unfortunately, I don't see any of you. I was hoping to do this in person, but as a result of COVID, we are doing our first quarterly coffee virtual. We initially had one scheduled back in March. The goal was to do 4 this year. Obviously, we canceled the one in March. This one we're doing virtually, and hopefully we could do the next one in person as well as electronically during the third quarter. But kind of the purpose of this quarterly coffees is to continue to improve in communications and transparency in the organization, give us an opportunity to meet some more owners. Obviously, we would be able to do that when we can meet in person, and then provide another vehicle for management to discuss operational issues with the community. I'm going to start with our mission, our vision, our values, and our tagline. Our mission is to enhance the quality of life, strive to protect the natural environment, and improve the resources of our community for all those that live, invest, work, and play here. Our vision is for Palma de Dunes to be regarded as the best and most sought-after residential resort community on the East Coast. Our values are accountable, ethical, forward-thinking, proactive, innovative, responsible, and transparent. And our tagline are where visitors become locals. So kind of the format of today's presentation is there'll be 4 of us from management giving a brief update, probably about 5 to 10 minutes each, and then we'll open it up to comments from the owners. So I'll start. Just a brief update on operations and our resort partners as a result of COVID. We're slowly returning back to normal. We're kind of in what I'm considering phase 2 of our recovery here at the association. Phase 1 started in the middle of May, and that's when we slowly started opening up the offices. Some members of management started coming back into work in the office. In early June, we entered phase 2, where we extended the office hours Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. More and more staff is spending a little bit more time in the office. Operationally, maintenance and security is fully staffed and operational in the community. And I envision we will probably be in phase 2 for a little bit longer than I anticipated. Things are working very well within phase 2. Numbers are still somewhat steady or slightly climbing as far as cases within Beaufort County as the population increases as we approach the summer season. So I anticipate being in phase 2 for a little bit longer, and then sometime we'll enter phase 3, which will probably be the new norm. Now, I'm not really sure what the new norm will look like, but hopefully it'll eventually get back to regular operations. Just kind of an update from our resort partners. Obviously, the association was impacted by COVID-19. Many of our short-term rental investment property owners had no guests in the community. And certainly resort partners were severely impacted from the virus. The Marriott never closed, but they had roughly 5 to 7 rooms booked during the peak of the shutdown. The Omni closed in late March. They eventually opened in the middle of May. They initially opened with 60% of their rooms. Right now, I believe they're offering 80% of their rooms with a goal to get in 100% of available rooms in the near future. The resort was significantly impacted as well. All their food and beverage outlets were closed, tennis, the bike shop, pickleball. Really, the only thing that stayed open was golf operations, but they are fully operational right now. The last remaining asset of theirs that was still closed was Alexander's, but they recently opened Alexander's. I think the first night they did 60 dinners, and the next night they did 120 dinners. So obviously our resort partners are an integral part of operations and the success of the association and the community. So I encourage all of you to try to patronize our resort partners as they recover from the impact from the shutdown. And then finally, Disney is the last one that's still closed. They anticipate to be open June 15th. The resort across the street, as well as the beach house. They are struggling with staffing. I'm not sure if the bathrooms will be open at the beach house on June 15th, but they'll do the best to get their bathrooms open as soon as possible. Just a quick update on our amenity discussions. As many of you are aware, there was a desire to enter into a relationship or a partnership with Palmetto Dunes Resort to redevelop the Dunes House. Members of the board and myself started discussions with our resort partner, Greenwood, late last year, and those discussions were very successful. They were moving along at a good pace. However, as a result of COVID, we postponed discussions beginning in February, mainly because of the virus and as well as the impact the resort was experiencing. They were somewhat in survival mode during those 2 to 3 months. So a Dunes House discussion was put on the hold at this time. We are starting those conversations again next week with the resort operator. Where we are in the process right now is if we do enter into an agreement later this year, the earliest we would start construction would be September of 2021. And certainly before we finalize an agreement with the resort partner on the redevelopment of the Dunes House, we would share that with the community to get some feedback from the community before we move forward. A quick update on short-term rentals, policies, procedures, and guidelines. Last year, there was a short-term rental committee that was established. The purpose of the committee and their recommendations was to review the impact short-term rentals may be having upon Palmetto Dunes and recommend policies and processes to balance the economic needs of those who rent with the quality of life expected by owners who do not, ensuring the behaviors of either group do not adversely impact the other group. All of their minutes and their recommendations are on our website. Earlier this year at the January board meeting, the board started approving a list of recommendations from the short-term rental committee. There was a second round that was approved in the February meeting, and there'll be a third round eventually, may or may not be approved at the June meeting. Once those are recommendations are approved, Chief Greiner is in the process of developing a document entitled Short-Term Rentals Policy, Procedures, and Guidelines that will incorporate all those recommendations. And then that will be shared with the community for a member comment period. It is also being reviewed by legal right now, and we envision some of those recommendations would require a covenant amendment that would have to go to the membership for approval. Where we are in the process is if we do move forward with this and get the approval from the membership, With the covenant amendment at the annual meeting in October, our goal will be implementation January 1st of 2021, sorry. And then just a quick update on where we are in the summer season. For those that you are here, feels like July 4th already. We certainly had a very quiet period with the shutdown in April. Things started getting slightly busy during the month of May. Memorial Day weekend was probably the busiest I've seen it in a long time. And given the fact that many kids in the Northeast are not in school, parents are working remotely, I think we're seeing a much earlier influx in the community in June than we normally would. So the early part of June is extremely busy, and all signs are indicating that we're going to have a very robust summer season. Like, there's a lot of pent-up demand across the East Coast. Obviously, with the occupancy in the community, just a quick reminder about bike and pedestrians. There's a lot of vehicular traffic in the community, pedestrian as well as bikes, so just be cautious out there. The Dunes Buggy was started a little bit later this year as a result of COVID. We started operations in mid-May. Some safety measures have been put in place. So we may expect some longer than anticipated wait times because we're limiting passengers per trip. But the Dunes Buggy is fully operational. The Turtle Trots this year, unfortunately, we had to cancel the April events, and the June events we are doing virtual right now. So if you're interested in running the Turtle Trot, it could be run virtually. Please pass along that to your guests right now. And we have not made a decision right now with respect to July and August's races. So the fact that the Turtle Trot is going virtual, I anticipate participation being a lot lower, which all of those proceeds fund our Palmetto Dunes Care charitable initiative in the community. So the Advisory Council for the Palmetto Dunes Cares is looking at other opportunities to raise money this year because of the decline from the Turtle Trot. And then lastly, our resort partner, Shelter Cove and Palmetto Dunes, has postponed fireworks for the time being. So there are no fireworks on Tuesday night over in Shelter Cove through July 4th right now. And I don't believe they've made a decision about events in early July. Thank you for your time. And once we go through the presentations, I'll be available for any questions. I'll turn it over to Ben Brown.
Good morning. My name is Ben Brown, and I'm the Director of Planning and Property Operations. And I joined the team in March of 2014 to predominantly help Andrew and the board plan and implement capital projects. And then shortly after I started, I also received responsibilities for the day-to-day operations of our property maintenance department. That was until we hired Sydney Wan as our facilities manager at the end of 2015. And as you may know, my position evolved just a bit last year to also include ARB and covenant compliance. So my primary responsibilities include leading our capital program and supporting ARB, covenant compliance, and facility services. And over the next few minutes, I'll provide a brief background on our capital program, on lagoon management, and on covenant compliance. But our capital program, we've accomplished a lot together over the last few years. Just to name a few projects, but the building I'm in right now, 16 Queens Folly, we bought the old fire station in 2014, and we built these offices, and Chief Greiner will speak to you in just a few minutes, but I remember the old pass offices, the old double wide behind our office here. We've come a long ways in the last few years. Mooring buoy, that was a big project for us. We significantly improved safety, we improved water quality, and we had consistent design standards in the community. If you remember, mooring buoy, it kind of meandered. It wasn't even the same width all the way through, and the only thing separating pedestrians from vehicles was a stripe on the road. And we were able to improve water quality because we took our storm drains out of the street, we put them in the green space between the pathway and the street, and now we have consistent design standards in Palmetto Dunes as well. Our roads are the same width. Our green space is at least 5 feet if we can. We try to put native vegetation in these areas. Our pathways are 8 feet wide. We also redeveloped the Queens Folly corridor. And I've been visiting Palmetto Dunes since the mid-'80s, and I can't remember a time that our corridors looked better. The bridge replacement program, back in 2014, we started our bridge replacement program. And to date, we've replaced 5 of 12 bridges. We've also replaced several beach walkways with ramps over our dune system. We built fishing and kayak docks to improve accessibility to the lagoon. We significantly improved drainage on our T streets, on our first 3 T streets, A, B, and C. Portac and Lookout, we finished these projects earlier this year. They've been really well received. And Sea Lane is a big project scheduled for this fall. It'll include a significant amount of pipe work. We'll rebuild the road, we'll realign the pathway, but like all of our projects, number 1 priority is improving safety, and number 2 is to preserve the tree canopy. But we are on schedule to replace and enhance all of our original infrastructure by the year 2032. We've come a long ways in the last 6 years. I remember when I first started, there were a lot of folks that were very nervous about our capital program. A lot of folks were concerned that we were going to destroy what we love about Palmetto Dunes. But it's just not like that anymore. People are overwhelmingly supportive, and I really enjoy my involvement in the process. Next item, lagoon management. Back in 2014, we started our lagoon management program as we know it today. And back in 2014 and prior years, lagoon management was managed by volunteers. And at this point, we had a 2-man maintenance team, and we didn't have a boat. Well, technically, Herbert had a boat behind the maintenance shop, but it didn't float. So we didn't have a boat. So when I first started and I wanted to go out and see areas of the lagoon, I would reach out to folks like John Joseph, Tom Shelford, and they would take me out in the lagoon to get a better understanding of what the existing conditions would be. So then we started having a bunch of stakeholder meetings to identify what are our main priorities for the lagoon system. Number 1 was we needed baseline surveys. We needed to know what our existing conditions were in the lagoon system. We needed to prepare a multi-year lagoon management program, and we needed to adopt a shoreline management and bulkhead policy. We had a lot going on at the time. This is the same time we were starting our capital program, our bridge replacement program. We were building these offices here at 16 Queens Folly. So we engaged a consultant to help us navigate through the process, but we quickly learned that much of this is better served by self-performing the work. For example, our consultant originally helped us put together a 10-year management program. And we were told that this 10-year management program would cost upwards of $8 million to implement. Well, I'm pleased to report that in about 5 years, we completed that management program, and we completed it for about $2 million. In the shoreline management and bulkhead policy, we ended up drafting that in-house. I prepared the original draft. It went to the ARB, it went to the Lagoon and Lakes group, and it was ultimately vetted by these groups, edited and adopted by our board of directors at the end of 2015, implemented in 2016. And that 2015 to 2016 time period was really important for our lagoon system. We hired Sydney Wan at the end of 2015. Sydney Wan is our facilities manager. And although I was involved very much in the original development of the lagoon management program, he's really led the implementation, working with the lagoon group. But 2016 was a big year. We had Hurricane Matthew. We had almost 300 trees down in the lagoon system. We had significant damage to our tide gates. 2017 was a big year. We started our dredge program, 2018, 2019. But we've had a really busy 5 years working in the lagoon system. Just to name a few projects, a significant amount of pine straw has been removed from the lagoon system. The freshwater lakes, over 100 dump truck loads of pine straw was removed just from our freshwater lakes. Hurricane preparation, after Matthew, we learned a lot. And it was after Irma, the town engineer reached out to me and mentioned how impressed he was with Sydney and the team. And he went as far to say that Palmetto Dunes was the most prepared community on the island for storm surge. Shoreline management, we've done a significant amount of pruning. That's the dead, overgrown wax myrtle predominantly in the lagoon system. Again, the town reached out to us after we implemented our pruning program and recognized us for following best practices. I was asked to speak at a conference a couple years ago on behalf of the town on our lagoon management program. Aeration, Sydney and his team have been doing a lot to improve aeration in the community. More oxygen is good for water quality, more oxygen is good for fish health. Water testing, we used to pay an outside service about $1,500 every time we wanted water testing. It was really reactive. We'd have some dead fish, so we'd test the water. One of the members of the lagoon group recommended, why don't we buy our own testing equipment? So we did. So for less than $1,500, we bought our own equipment, and now we do that in-house. Dredging program, this was big. We dredged over 30,000 cubic yards of material from the lagoon system. That's a lot. And this is the first time the lagoon had been dredged in over 50 years since the original excavation of the lagoon. But more than anything, I want to mention the culture of lagoon management. 6 years ago, members of the lagoon group would mention that they felt that there was really a lack of interest to invest in lagoon management. And that's not the case anymore. Lagoon management is identified as one of our board's top priorities, and I believe it's really paying dividends in the community. Third and last item is covenant compliance. And as I mentioned at the beginning, supporting covenant compliance is a relatively new responsibility of mine. Although I participated as a member of our board strategic planning team in 2016 and 2017, where proactive covenant compliance was first identified as a top priority, I really wasn't involved in the details until recently. And in full candor, we as an organization got off to a bit of a rough start. Back in 2018, we hired our first covenant compliance representative, a really nice person, but not the right fit for the position. So we had to reevaluate the person who was going to help us lead covenant compliance. And we ultimately recruited Kenya Carswell, who joined our team at the end of 2018. Kenya brought with her 10 years of experience in community association management, as well as community governance. But more important than that, she has a great personality. She's approachable, she's friendly, and she genuinely cares about helping people. And in 2019 is really when Kenya had an opportunity to get more involved in covenant compliance. So with Sarah's help, she completed all 2,171 baseline property inspections in the community. She also completed 244 closing property inspections. But like lagoon management, where we really didn't have a good idea what our existing conditions were, it was the same thing with covenant compliance. So by completing these baseline inspections, now we have really good data and we understand where our problems are in the community. She also prepared articles for the Tidings, Palmetto Perspective, and answered numerous compliance-related questions. But just recently, Kenya mentioned to me that she received 86 messages regarding covenant compliance in one day. That's a lot of messages, especially for a department of one, but Kenya's busy and she does a great job. In 2020, our primary focus is education, property inspection reports, and reasonable enforcement. Education includes articles in the Tidings, Palmetto Perspective, community emails. We're also going to send out letters to all 931 owners of single-family property in the community explaining the process, because in 2020, the primary goal are the single-family properties. And as we know, education as well as community buy-in are really keys to a successful program. We learned that with our capital program, we learned that with lagoon management, and it'll be the same with covenant compliance. Property inspection reports. Baseline inspection reports are prepared for every property in the community. And Kenya will send out over the next 4 months the 931 single-family property inspection reports. And these reports detail any items found that are not consistent with our covenants, our ARB policy, procedures, and guidelines, our lagoon and lake PPGs, and our resort regulations. So this is largely informative in nature. And then our last item is reasonable enforcement. And the goal is for 90-some% of the community who's going to receive their baseline inspection. The goal is for us to receive requests for reinspection within 6 months. And this is to come back and look at the property and do the reinspection, and then we're done for the year. The next primary focus are the C properties. Like lagoon management, we identified all of our A, B, and C properties with shoreline management. It's the same thing with covenant compliance. And C is critical. C are the properties that really need the most attention. We have to evaluate all of the properties to understand our baseline, but our focus is on the C. So moving into the third quarter, Kenya is going to work on putting all of this information, all of this data into GIS, a geographical information system, so we can digitize all this information, and then we can target those C properties. But as you know, the priority in 2020 is not dirty driveways. The priority is not grinding stumps. The priority are these properties that we're all aware of, where we have weeds that are chest high, we have trees growing out of gutters, and we have decks falling off of properties. There are not many of these in Palmetto Dunes. We're talking about maybe 10 properties, but that's our priority. But if you need extra time, please reach out to Kenya. This is going to be a process, and we need to find out why some of these properties are neglected. Are folks not able to take care of their properties? Are they not willing to take care of their properties? But this is going to take time. And in the fourth quarter, Kenya is going to spend a considerable amount of time working with these folks who have these C-rated properties to figure out how do we bring these properties to at least a B or better rating. We also have an appeals process. Just like any other decision in the community, there's due process. If somebody doesn't agree with their property inspection report, please ask for an appeal. The appeals board is a group of volunteer property owners. They'll review your application and they'll make a determination. And lastly, I want to mention that if implemented properly, which is certainly our goal, we believe that proactive covenant compliance will pay dividends in Palmetto Dunes. In conclusion, I just want to thank you for your time this morning, and I want to thank you for your continued trust. I've been visiting Palmetto Dunes for over 30 years. I've been working for the community for about 6 years. And I love this community, just like you, and I really enjoy working together. So thank you for your time.
Go back. Yeah, it's the top one,
There you
right?
go.
To go forward.
Side button to go forward.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Matthew Nemes, the controller for PDPOA. And today I'm going to talk about some of the financial accomplishments of the Finance Committee during the first half of the year, and also give a brief update on how COVID has affected operations and the capital program in 2019. Each month, the Finance Committee meets with management to discuss and cover the operating budget and the current capital program at PD. Management and the Finance Committee have a goal to keep expenses at a reasonable level and fund the capital program to keep Palmetto Dunes as a premier residential resort. During the past few years, I believe we've accomplished this goal. We have spent about $12 million on capital projects. These include the first phase of the T Streets, the final phase of the Queens Folly Corridor, Port Tack, and this year we'll be starting C Lane. During this time, we've kept the total assessment at $1,800 the past 3 years, and less than 50% of the funds have come from the homeowners. The other sources come from rental pass revenue, a security contract with Leamington, and the commercial assessments. All these facts are great, but they wouldn't mean as much to the community if we did not have an annual audit. The audit verifies that no fraud is going on at PD, the revenue and expenses are properly recorded, and everything is running in accordance with the current accounting standards. Each year, the Finance Committee and management outsource the audit to a local accounting firm. And for 2019, we received an unqualified opinion. And this means that we are reporting everything in accordance with the current accounting standards, and they found no instances of fraud. We've had an annual audit since 2006, and every year we've received an unqualified opinion. Next, I'm going to discuss a key risk document. In 2019, the Finance Committee and management developed this document. This document identifies potential threats to the Finance Committee and management to review each year, and they're grouped in categories based on the likelihood of happening. In this document, we look at PD being a coastal community in the Southeast. We look at a concentration of investments. We have a portfolio that's made up of fixed income and equities. We look at our cash in excess of FDIC limits, and we look at our revenue exposure to market trends. This document is updated on an annual basis. I'm sure next year we will add the risk of a pandemic. Luckily, we don't have plantation in our name, so that's not a risk. And some of the mitigating for being a coastal community, we have a storm fund and we have a line of credit. So that mitigates being a coastal community. The concentration of investments, we have a outside investment consultant and we have an IPS. Our IPS is very conservative. Our equities are invested in dividend aristocrats. And then the concentration of cash in excess of FDIC is limited because we have our money with a large regional bank, and each year our investment consultant and management review the stability of the bank. Next, I have a brief update on COVID and the effects on operations and the capital program. As you all know, COVID has had an impact on operations, specifically the pass office and the transfer fee from home sales. Both of these line items are forecasted to come in under budget. However, even with these items coming in under budget, we are still forecasting a positive net income variance for the year. During the month of April, pass office revenue was significantly affected, specifically the rental passes. We only did a little above $10,000 in sales. However, May has rebounded nicely and we were only $20,000 under budget for the rental passes. Our investments were affected significantly in the months of February and March, but due to the conservative portfolio we have, they have rebounded over the last 2 months. And our dividend aristocrats have outperformed the industry benchmark. We've outperformed them close to 10%. The capital program at PD is not affected at this time by COVID. Fortunately, all money in the repair and replacement fund is restricted by the covenants. So once the money is transferred to this fund each year, it can only be spent on the capital program. And thank you for attending. Have a good day.
This might be frozen. It's not moving forward.
I'm gonna ask Elizabeth if she isn't running outside.
Okay.
See your stalling.
If you click the sidebar, you might have been clicking that up. If you click it down, it's not working.
Is it on?
Mm-hmm. Everything's on. Oh, it's frozen.
Okay, I don't worry about that. So I can speak though, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can still talk.
Good morning. We're having some technical difficulties here on our side. This is the first time I've participated in this type of forum, although I've done several of the virtual meetings since COVID-19. I'll take just a moment just to introduce myself. I'm not sure who our audience is. I've been with PDPOA since 2010. I come from Georgia, the Savannah area, grew up there, did both my undergrad work and my graduate work there in Georgia, and started my law enforcement career in the early 90s and worked primarily throughout Savannah, the Savannah-Chatham County area, but also had assignments with the federal government with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And also have a fair amount of experience working with the national or international accrediting body for law enforcement agencies, which is CALEA, and I still serve as an employee for them and travel to law enforcement agencies throughout the United States, verifying accreditation standards and so forth. But I just wanted to give you kind of a brief update on our current well, 4 different areas here. Start with staffing here at the security and pass office. Throughout this period of time where we've dealt with COVID, we've been really strong. We've had no employees that were directly affected as far as an illness related to COVID-19. Very happy with that because we have a lot of staff that are coming in contact with individuals visiting the community as well as their personal lives. And everyone was able to come to work as scheduled. And we're very, very pleased with that. The security remained fully operational during the pandemic, in which we're still dealing with. And the pass office lobby was closed during during a short period of time there. And we currently have hours of Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Did want to mention that we ask all of our owners who may need decals or assistance from our pass office to make sure you follow those hours, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday. If you have some type of special request, if you need property owner decals outside of those hours, just give us a call and we'll see if we can make some arrangements to accommodate that. And we're also going to start this weekend opening up Saturday from 3 to 7. That's primarily to help with our rental guests that are checking in and to try to avoid any type of traffic backups along Queens Folly. I want to talk just a little bit about public safety. We changed our processes just a bit during the COVID-19, and basically we changed the way we respond to calls for service. So when we're dealing with situations that we would classify as a nuisance, those particular instances, we will try to contact the complainant, speak with them over the phone, correct the problem, or get the information and write a report. If we cannot handle it over the phone, then we come out to the scene. If it's something, as an example, like a noise complaint, we will reach out to the owner or the rental management company, try to get it corrected, and then we send an officer out to verify that the action has been corrected. If it's criminal in nature, generally that requires us to be on scene, in which we usually do that with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. This year we updated our UART, which is our Uniform Act Regulating Traffic. And what that means to you is that we have some speed limit changes in the community. All of Moore and Bowie is now 20 miles per hour, which includes all of the T streets as well. And then Holloway is 20 miles an hour. We have the signs up indicating the new speed, and we will be out enforcing those. We have given a period of time to make adjustments to those. And so beginning July 1, our patrol team will be enforcing those. So please make sure you're monitoring the speed limits there. And I'll say there may be times, in particular along Moore and Bowie, or even Queens Folly, that the posted speed limit might be a little bit too fast. As an example, if it's congested, it may be more appropriate to go at a slower speed. I want to remind everyone that although we do have a very, very safe community, it doesn't mean that we're crime free. And typically the crimes that we have here are crimes of opportunity, where folks have left car doors unlocked and items of value in plain sight. So please remember to just follow some basic safety rules. Lock your doors, close your garage doors, and keep valuables out of sight. And also we ask that if you see something that appears suspicious, give us a call, let us check it out. We would rather find out that there was nothing to it than not know about it. Also want to remind everyone please make sure we do not feed any wildlife. We will be sending out a survey to our owners on approximately June 22nd. It's a deer survey. So we're going to be asking for some feedback on our population there. Keep in mind that excessive noise at any time will not be tolerated. If you happen to have a rental unit, please make sure you pass that along to your guest. In particular this year, it seems like we've had more complaints about noise from guests coming in. I'm not sure if we have a group of folks that haven't been here, or if it's folks that have just been cooped up for so long and they're getting here and just I guess, wanting to have a good time, but we want to make sure we pass that along. That's one of our biggest complaints that we have every year, but it seems to be a little bit more popular this year. So please make sure you pass that information along. Please continue to exercise your social distancing and following recommendations from reputable sources. A couple other items regarding public safety. Please make sure your decals, your property owner decals, are affixed to the vehicle and not taped to the windshield. Make sure they're up to date as well. Keep in mind there is no parking on lawns. Motorcycles are prohibited. Fireworks are prohibited. And if you would, please make sure that nothing is hanging from the rails of homes. Those are some of the common issues that we deal with pretty much on a daily basis. Also, I want to remind everyone, if you're away from home, if you're going to be vacationing or out of town for a few days, please go to our website and sign up for a house check. We'll come out twice a day and make sure that everything's okay. And if we find any type of discrepancies, we will make notification to you. New for 2020, we started a Marine Patrol unit. Last year, I was invited to several meetings with the Lagoon and Lake Advisory Group. And during those meetings, there was information that was shared regarding concerns about boats speeding, causing wakes, folks in the lagoon paddleboarding, as well as probably the most, I guess the biggest concern is illegal discharging into the lagoon system. So after hearing the complaints and concerns, there was a recommendation that we start a Marine Patrol unit. It's, having security out on the lagoon system to enforce our covenants. And so I prepared a business case and presented that to the board, and that was approved. So effective the week of May 11th, we actually deployed our boat. We're spending anywhere from, our goal was 12 to 24 hours per week. And so we use a 16-foot fiberglass boat, which is very ideal for the type of work that our security folks will be doing. It's very stable, offers the ability to move from one side to the other without the boat rocking so much. And we selected this boat as well as the engine based on feedback from the Lagoon and Lake Advisory Group, South Carolina DNR, as well as local law enforcement. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone that we are now into our hurricane season. I think we've already had 3 named storms this year. I know according to, I believe it's Colorado State University, I think they're expecting 16 named storms this year with 8 hurricanes, and 4 of those, I believe, major. So just keep in mind that as we're here, June 1st through November 30th is our hurricane season. Now is the time, if you haven't already, to be thinking about evacuation plans. And in particular, your evacuation plans may differ this year as a result of COVID-19. So please review your plans. If we get into a situation where we're going to be evacuating, please make sure you notify security, if you're going to be staying or if you're going to be leaving. We'd really like to have that information. We do maintain plenty of equipment, generators. We have a trailer, portable lights, fuel, and we have the ability to return to the island with our incident reentry cards in the event of a natural disaster. So that is my update here, and I guess I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and for any types of questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Matthew. At this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions that any of the members may have for myself or members of the management team that are here present. If you could just raise your hand, Elizabeth will bring you into the call. And if you could just state your name and your property address, please. Valerie?
Hello, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. I have an ongoing question, to be honest. I feel that there has been a very large gap in fixing something in a timely manner. Hurricane Matthew was, I don't know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and there's still damage that has not been taken care of along the cart path, the sidewalk between Trent Jones and Queens Grant. The pilings are still sticking up or laying down. The netting is still there. It looks really bad. And Trent Jones has done nothing to fix this, or I guess Greenwood has done nothing to, remove the pilings and make the area back to what it should look like.
All right, I was aware of the condition a couple of years ago and I thought it was improved, but thanks for bringing it to my attention. I will reach out to the resort partner and see if we could get some progress made on that, and I'll follow back up with you.
I'd appreciate that, because, when tourists come here, this is the view that they see. And Trent Jones is supposed to be this great world-class golf course, and it doesn't look like it. And people are paying top dollar to come here. We need our tourists to come here and say good things and to have a nice view and to have a great experience. And when it just looks run down, it doesn't do anybody any good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Else down lower. Okay. All right, there's a question, Robin.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Robin.
I have a question. When you redo the C-Lane project and the C-Lane bridge by the three-way stop sign,
Yes, ma'am.
the bicycle and walking traffic, because the path switches sides just after you go over the bridge coming from the three-way stop sign, and I guess going the other direction, going out of the plantation towards the gatehouse. Bikers and walkers tend to not switch sides, and they walk over the bridge on the road. I was wondering if when we're redoing that project, if we could keep the pathway on the same side of the road over the bridge and switch after the three-way stop sign.
That's a great point, Robin. And that's certainly our plan. This phase of the C-Lane project takes place after the bridge. The bridge is not part of the scope of work for this coming project. So we're just going to be addressing C-Lane just beyond the bridge all the way to Port Tack. But certainly when we come back and do the C-Lane bridge, the goal would be to build a separated leisure path on that south side of the C-Lane bridge and keep the path along Mooring Buoy into C-Lane on the same side of the road. And it'll cross much further down at Lee Shore, or Weather Shore, I believe, is where it will cross.
Great. Okay, that's my point.
All right, thanks, Robin. Are there any other questions? All right, I don't see any other questions. I want to thank everybody for their time today. I hope you have an opportunity to enjoy today and the rest of your summer. Thank you very much.